102 Digital.
No one's taking time to build character, and that is the cause of our downfall. Good afternoon, Karen. Good afternoon, Richard.
Good
Hello, hello.
afternoon to you, Mackie, and of course, Richard. Imagine. I'm not going to say what I want to say, huh?
But I was here
I'm not going
waiting
to
for
say
you,
it, huh?
Karen. I was waiting for you.
And look at and he's looking sharp as a razor.
Oh no, that's
Look
because
at
of
him.
meetings, Karen. Meetings. You
Well,
know,
you
some
have the
meetings.
look. You have the look of a senior executive man.
No. Yes, Karen. And as Prime Minister.
Uh-huh. No, you're making joke, you know, but words
Just
are very
looking,
powerful, you know.
Yes,
Yes.
tell him that.
Remember, when you look at the Bible, whether you're a biblical person or not, and in the beginning there was the word.
Yes.
Yes.
So don't ever underestimate the power of the word. Every
And
leader,
then the
whether
word
we
became life,
there
flesh
we
and
go.
blood. Yes.
Oh God, well, you're shaming me that I couldn't continue it.
Well, Karen. And
Yes,
that was
yes,
Jesus. That
yes,
was
yes,
Jesus. Yeah. In the beginning, there was the word, and then the word became what?
yes, but
Alive.
saying that,
Yeah.
but saying that now, no, this is not something. Well, I hope some of your listeners would be interested in this because I find it it really goes back to this whole theory of life and the theory of Adam and Eve, and of course for many people who are atheists, and it's almost like a religion to be an atheist, because if you're an atheist, you don't believe in God, well, just don't believe in God. But why must you go recruiting people not to believe in God? It's almost a religion in itself. And that's my opinion on it. I find too many times persons who are atheists are almost, well, to a large extent, they are very well, let me not pass judgment on them, but one of the things they do, which I find very worrying, is that they seem it is their duty to get you not to believe in God, which in itself is a religion. But I make that point only to say that I tried to get my grandson to have some interest in it today, but I wasn't too successful. But I hope the rest of the world is looking at this John Webb, this new Horus telescope, because before that we had the what did you call the horoscope telescope before that? It could go and it's down in Chile, at the bottom of Chile. It could go so far into the past. But this telescope, which they revealed its findings about a few days ago, they say it has made a huge difference, and that in fact they have now been able to go back 30 million light years into the past, and that at that rate they may very well, according to them, be able to know where life began. It has such an impact, and in the photos that this Webb telescope took, which replaced the Hubble horoscope. I keep saying horoscope, telescope. The fantastic thing about it is this: they showed you pictures of the universe, and they showed you a slice. And of that slice, it was full of galaxies upon galaxies upon galaxies upon suns upon lights. I mean, it was just infinite. I mean, it was mind blowing. And they told you that what you are seeing in that photo is if you took a piece of sand and put it on your thumb and held it away from your body, that is how much of the universe that picture captured. So, I say that because I have an interest in it, because it always goes back to religion. It comes back to religion, those who believe that the Big Bang Theory, gases and everything got together, and then you got gravity pulling things together. And they actually showed you a picture of a star that was dying, and you've seen it dying because the dust particles are moving away from the center. And then they showed you a picture of what they call the nursery, where new stars were being born, which is why there's neither beginning nor an end. Because as one star dies, other stars, even made out of that same matter, are now Hubble. It was a Hubble, that's what it was called, Hubble telescope. But now this is supposed to be so mind-blowing. This John Webb or Webb, I don't know why I keep saying horoscope, telescope, because it is really challenging. It is really challenging religion in its own way, because what it is really, that's I guess why I have the interest in it. I am a Catholic, and I guess it is scary for me for these scientists to be able to take you 30, more than that, million light years more further back than they already could have before, to get almost to what they say how time began. Did you read about that? I mean, it is just I get interested in it, and your listeners should get interested in it, because I think that is to some degree at the core of people who are atheists or agnostic. That this idea, I think that that is part of what fuels it. So it got my interest because it was showing you all of this. What do you say to that, Richard?
Yeah, I was the Big Bang Theory, and it has my interest to that extent, because that will be answering what I would consider to be a most fundamental question that has been the basis for some people operating as they do and believing what they choose to believe. So that if we can go back that far to demonstrate or somehow prove that humans did not result from this Big Bang, that theory that scientists tend to push forward, then you would find that there may be some people who would then become inclined to release themselves from that theory and perhaps try to cling to something else. Even if that telescope want to prove that human beings came as a result of a Big Bang, then they still have other questions to answer. Let's just take, for example, who came up with 10, which is the lifespan of a human being in general, the average? Who came up with that? Then why people start attracting the type of ailments that they do when they cross 70 or just before 70 and that type of thing. Those are things that will express.
Well, you listen now, you stop bad talking like Prime Minister and come there.
No, but I'm saying I only speak the truth about them, and I never bad talk anybody. You know,
you say that people over 70. You abuse at age 70.
Yeah, because the Bible said 10. You know that, right?
Yes, I know the reason why I said that is because
being 20, so 3 scores would be 60. And
yeah, but
10.
you didn't answer the fundamental question that bothers me. I mean, I'm not. It doesn't make me not believe.
I think it will answer all of that. There's a bigger part of it, because once you could prove to the scientists, and better yet, if they could develop the technology to prove themselves incorrect, those who held on to the theory for many decades now that humans are as a result of a Big Bang, if they could discover on their own through their own work that it wasn't so, that's the best way to convince them. The atheists and others may start viewing things a bit differently. I believe what I believe, and they would have to answer some other questions to explain to me some other differences, because it's not just the Big Bang side of it. You have a lot more. The Bible speaks to a lot of stuff and predicts stuff, and still predicting stuff that tend to come true.
Yeah, but I think what I was probably scientists or the rational part of me, I always like to be challenged, and not to be not to take a position that is unyielding. It doesn't change my position on that I am not in charge of me. It doesn't change that, but it does make me not discount what the scientists have discovered, because how long, and when for your viewers, just in case, when they talk about light years, what they're really telling you is how long it takes light to travel from A point to B point, and they measure it by miles. So if they say that the Earth is 30,000 light miles from the moon, what they're trying to say is if you took light and shone it to the moon, it would take 30,000 miles to reach there, and then you'll have to work out that in how many days and hours. So the fact of the matter that they're telling you is 30 million light years. They are telling you if you were to travel from the planet Earth to where they have discovered, it would take those millions of years. And also what they have said, I mean, I'm just bringing it up because, it's always about the idea about how we were born, where we just Adam and Eve, God pulled a rib and came Adam and Eve and all that. It is frightening for religions when you hear these theories, because it challenges their view of creation. And so when you hear that, you cannot be dismissive of it, because it's having that in Europe, for example, the Christianity is almost dead, and that almost all the churches, almost all, I'm exaggerating, but many of the churches in Europe have been converted into apartments and townhouses. And the same goes for United States. And now the place that they are able to recruit priests, soon enough we're going to have a black priest or an Indian priest, because where there are only places where the religion is still alive and kicking, it's really in places like Africa, Asia, and Latin America. In Europe, the so-called educated do not accept this old theory of creation, and that is a very worrying trend. First, I don't want to go on and on it too much, except to say that the Webb telescope is supposed to be a massive discovery on the part of science, and on the question of where did life begin, and when did the Big Bang happen. And they think that they're getting closer and closer to that answer. The church, on the other hand, I think, although I have not been very good about following it, says they do not believe it is either is a contradiction, because all of that, whether it is hydrogen, water, whatever gases, whatever it is, and dust, whatever it is, the particles that make up a star, that make up a planet, that come from somewhere. So I think they are not against the theory of evolution and the evolution ending in a creation of mankind. I don't think they think it's contradictory. I think maybe they believe it's part of God's plan, that we would reach to this point. And if life is eternal, then there's no time frame, what we call about hundreds of millions of years or no years. So I don't know. I don't want to go on it, but I just want your listeners to look up the Webb telescope and to see what it's supposed to be one of the major discoveries of NASA, and looking at actually finding out when did the Big Bang actually happen. So I won't go on more about it. Just thought I should mention it.
We need to commend the scientists and all the other persons who supported them to reach where they are now in relation to this latest development in technology. Because what it could do for the world is that it will give us a better picture about history in some areas. I don't know if they would be able to accurately capture the path with life, but they could surely try. But there are parts that we would like to know about, though. I'd like to get better movies about when Jurassic Park, if we capture those dinosaurs properly, so that will be able to tell us what they really look like and if they really existed before, and that type of thing.
True,
The big lizards, always I'm fascinated by those things. So I would love to see
true.
new movies being created through
And the
that new
Komodo dragon in
all
Indonesia.
that type of thing. Yes, and if dragons did fly and spray
Yeah.
fire, that could burn down cities without their belly getting hot. Very strange. All
But I
of these,
just thought, I know it's
yeah,
not the usual beginning for the
yeah,
show, but because it's such an important development globally, I thought
yeah,
maybe, just for the interest, but we could come back to our little neck of the woods, which is our area of interest, as it should be, because, I don't know if you noticed this, and I don't want to be CNN, my goodness, you would swear the only thing that has happened in United States for the last 2 years is January 6th insurrection. The Boris Johnson thing was going on, and you were getting a blow by blow of whether he would have resigned, who was wanted the job, and all of that. And it was as if that was not even happening. Sri Lanka virtually collapsed. I mean, and all they thought to talk about is January 6th insurrection. I say, it's such a very narrow view of the world, but let us, well, we'll take the same narrow view because we have BBC with the world news. We have Al Jazeera, I
Al
think.
Jazeera, Al
Yeah, I
Jazeera.
always watch that. I think I learn a lot from them. I learn a lot
Yeah.
from them.
But I
And
was going to tell you that, Karen,
huh?
America has a very narrow view. They believe anything happening in America is what the world is looking at. And that is the number one thing they believe the world is concentrating on. So Donald Trump on January 6th is they believe that is as important to the rest of the world as it is to them. That is a how should I say, a belief within their belief system, and it is based on how they view themselves in relation to the rest of the world. Now you have a situation where you have captured two major things that were taking place, and I had to turn to Al Jazeera myself and the BBC to get some of it.
Yeah.
I have to tell you though, MSNBC was carrying a lot of it.
Oh, okay. I don't already watch MC.
Yeah, no, MSNBC is good. They were
Yeah.
carrying
Okay.
it, and actually they will say they will give me a countdown as to when they believe Johnson, based on the history and the tradition of England, they had a clock running down on him, and
Yeah.
I think he called it off before their clock had reached the time.
But
So all
listen
that,
to me now. You have to
yeah,
give him, eh?
yeah,
Listen, did you not see the picture of him dressed like if he's Tom Cruise? He went on some plane and he
hmm
dressed up in the Tom Cruise outfit. In fact, they put a picture of Tom Cruise when he was whatever show that was. I don't watch the
but
movie, but right. And he was
mhm,
dressed up in identical outfit, going on some jet or something. It was pre-planned. But
yeah.
listen to me, that man handled it as if it was just another day in the week. I got to give him that. He
But look, if
he
you look at the story of him, he grew up, as a what you call a spoiled child,
yeah,
meaning
but spoiled children have tantrums.
the, yes,
Small
they say
children have
he was,
spoiled children have
he was
tantrums
very
and say, "How dare
privileged.
you?"
Yeah, he, as they say, he went to the best school. I think they said he went to where, if not Harvard, it was Oxford,
Who's
I think.
that?
Yeah,
Um,
and he was in the
well,
club.
first of all, excuse me.
Boris.
The
Yeah,
British always
yeah,
start with public school. You can't, it's
yeah,
like, when someone asks you what school you went to, they really never, unless you went to Harvard or Yale or MIT or Cambridge or Oxford, they usually mean convent or college. Or no, that's what they really mean. And that's where they
yeah,
start putting the markers. So in England, Eton is the school where all like Churchill, a lot of prime ministers, and all the wealthy aristocrats and kings and queens, Eton boarding public school, which is a strange oxymoron to call it public when it's extraordinarily expensive. So I think he went to Eton, and so did Rishi, who looks like he can win. Sunak, it looks as if his shoe is in to be the next prime minister, at least for the next 2 years. He also went to what they call public school. And when they're doing the debate, they don't ever start with his Oxford. He went to Oxford. But they do mention Oxford, but they don't start with the Oxford. They always start with the public school that he went to.
Yeah,
because
they
what
want
they're
to show that
saying,
they're in touch. They want to show that they grew up just like everybody else. They're no different. So they need to
no, that he is different, because when you go to public school in England, it means you are vastly wealthy. You belong to yes. Public school in England is like an oxymoron.
It's different.
Public school in England means that you have spent thousands upon thousands of dollars to go there. It's private, and only the aristocrats and the prime ministers go there. So when they start talking about him, they don't start talking about when he went to Oxford. They start talking about him when he went to public school, and they name the public school. Right? But it's not Eton. Eton is where the kings and princes and all of them go to Eton. So public school is like an oxymoron in England. So they always want to start with, they went to public school. So public school is their mark of aristocracy. And you know, the whole system of strata and social strata comes from the good old colonial England. Yeah, we inherited it, didn't we? Huh?
Yeah.
So he's he looks like he's winning.
Yeah, but Boris was a spoiled fella for quite some. Just like Donald Trump was to go to war, and his father said no, and they came up with a nice excuse for him not to go to war, and yet he get a chance. Yeah, you know. So these rich people, they have had their say for quite some time. They continue to do so, and it's because of part of that history, I think, that landed this gentleman where he is today, which is out of what he described as the best job in the world. So
you mean Boris Johnson?
Boris, yeah.
He comes from that background for sure.
What they don't know is about restraint, the way they were brought up.
But he doesn't.
They believe, that's it. Yeah. Anything is.
But they don't need to have restraint, Richard. That's part of being wealthy and an aristocrat. Aristocrats are unconcerned about what you think of them, because they have such a high opinion of who they are. And if you put them to the test and dare to ask them, then they will let you know who their great-great-great-great-grandfather was, where they came from. So it gives them a license to behave in the most unseemly manner. And it's in a strange way, it comes out of their snobbishness and their feeling of superiority, which allows them to behave how the hell they want. Now, the ones from middle class trying to pull their way up and hopefully get acceptance, they are extremely aware and very careful about their mannerisms and behavior in public, because lest you find that they were not the manner born. When you are to the manner born, you will speak with the British upper Etonian accent, but you will behave in a manner that is outrageous, but you can't because of who you are. And that's a whole talk about.
But before we conclude that, and the sad thing about it is when they behave like that, and journalists in the media, of course, know who they are and what they came from, instead of calling them out for the nonsense they do, and they try to find a way to explain, well, it's not something bad. It's just, who he is or who she is, and and you should understand that and that evidence. But you can't do it now. Even if it was done accidentally, they tear you apart. And
Richard, the fourth estate, my dear. Yeah. And the fourth estate is full of the Telegraph and the upper class newspapers, and they write a story. I look at the story with nothing against the Attorney General, but it was muy simpático. Muy simpático. The whole approach that the newspapers took to it, and how they presented him and who they chose to quote, tells you they wanted to turn public opinion in his favor. And I'm not like, look, I don't have a view one way or the other. Well, I do have a view, but I'm talking from a point of view of how the newspaper can use their power.
Try to spin you, Karen. They could want to tell people, you stay close to tourism. Don't let the papers move you away from that. That's their view.
Yeah, but what we are doing now Richard, in
Yeah.
this conversation is this. What I'm trying to say is that people have to be very careful when they read headlines and they read a storyline, because it's quite easy after one or two followings of a story to know what side of the equation they fall down on by what they omit to tell you, how they present it, who they quote. So, for example, today, I absolutely have nothing against Reggie Amore. I liked him.
And you have said that from day one. From the time you got the job, you went into his history and you felt he was the best person for the job. Yeah.
Right. So, okay. Now, you cannot tell me that he is going to have anybody believe that he unintentionally said that he was a junior counsel. I'm not going to believe that. You are not going to make me, nobody believes that. And they know it's not true. It's not true. If I wanted to keep the job,
then why they trying to confuse people? Why they trying to confuse people?
No, they didn't try to confuse people. They did not try to confuse people. Understand this. And I hope, Reggie could take it personally. It's not personal and so on. But the council would not have gone further with it, as my understanding. But there's a rule in the law association which says that if more than 30, I think, or whatever number, ask for a special meeting to be called, you have to call it within 2 weeks. Right. So it was not a matter of law association wanted to call it. The rules made them have to call. They were compelled to do it. Okay, so that's one thing. But what I am saying, when I read the report, I could tell immediately what the newspaper was muy simpático. The newspapers wanted to paint a picture. They did it very carefully. Even Martin Daly, who usually has a very acerbic, caustic tongue, didn't dwell too much on the caustic, acerbic, right? Caustic tongue. He didn't dwell too much on the two things that he did wrong. The one is not only the disqualification about the 3 years, and how he didn't, he was just taking notes in the background. But also, too, there was another, there were about 2 or 3 issues concerning Miss Amor in relation to the matter. I thought at the very beginning, he should have said hands off. But the point was that Martin Daly did, took about 2 or 3 lines because he had to. Say, oh, you were a naughty boy. You were a naughty boy. But you know what you did? None of them ever do it. You look what you did. You did something they never do. You apologize. All is forgiven. Then Israel Khan says, you should never have done it. Never done it. He's a good boy. He's a good boy. Finish with that. And then, of course, the voting was not. So I'm not against the decision because it is the law association has spoken. What I found worrying is the position I thought that the newspapers took on the matter, which almost wanting to insert a personal a view of one of simpatico towards him. And I don't think it was one that, because what was it? What did he say differently? All he did was say, I'm sorry. In America, they as they resigning, they say, I am very sorry for what I am tending my resignation, and I'm very sorry for all those persons who I have disappointed. That's when I say them say, I'm sorry in America. In America, I do not hear them, just like Mr. Pincher in United Kingdom. I never hear them say, I did it, but I'm sorry. Okay, so let's go on. I hear them say, I have to resign, but in resigning, I want to say that I give just like those people who in prison and they allow them to make a statement, they say, I am sorry for the hurt and pain I caused your family. That don't mean you're going home, you're going to jail. So I don't understand how, because he says he's sorry, that suddenly that exonerates him from what he did in dating. I can't understand it. It's still, it is baffling to my mind.
he's
I
saying
cannot
he's
understand
sorry.
how I am. So from now on, I will tell every politician now, Cummins, who in a little bit of trouble, any one of them in trouble, just remember to do this. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
And nobody could attack you.
And then after you say I'm sorry, somehow those
the
magical words, I am sorry, means that anything that you that's questionable, not only does it disappear into the ether, but it also makes you a very sympathetic, humble character. It still doesn't answer why you said you're not a senior counsel. You still haven't answered that. You still haven't answered. Oh, the other thing, that you stood by your telephone waiting to give an explanation when that was not true. You told two untruths. So you can't come and say that you didn't say untruths. You said you did it unintentionally. That's what you said. So the truths will now become unintentional, and they became I am sorry. And the papers happy. The papers, it looked like people like Martin Daly, who I respect a lot. And then that's what you're supposed to do. So anybody from now on, and you get in trouble, anybody who gets in trouble now, just get humble and polite, do not resign, and just say, I'm sorry. And anybody asks you how you think that is enough, I'll say I have a precedent in the Honorable Attorney General. What say you?
Yeah, I mean, to say you are sorry and it's business, yeah, you are sorry, and thereafter it's business as usual. Something is wrong with that. Because what they are saying there is, as you have said, all that is required is to say you are sorry. So now, I am sorry is the standard you have to fulfill. And all you have to do is say it and you fulfill that standard. And
look sorrowful. And look sorrowful at the same time.
I have to add that in too. And the media houses and the professionals will come down and you are naughty boy. You was a
and you know what? You know what? You don't hurt me. You know what? You know what? Disappoint me. They've Martin. Martin. I like Martin. So it's as I always say, is that I always have myself saying it's not personal, because it really isn't. You have enough brains and enough intelligence. If you were not so inclined, the second paragraph would be, but Mr. Thing, that cannot be good enough. That is no answer to your saying, and it takes a real leap to believe that you unintentionally, what it more on a balance of probabilities, it seems as though you didn't know that it would have reached so far. And to add insult to injury, you then went on to say that you were not given an opportunity to clear it up when they released the notes of the hearing. It contradicted it. So what is it? Is on both occasions, although you have said you are sorry, I'm sure you are sorry. People are always sorry. I've never known anyone who has gotten caught that didn't say they were sorry. You know anybody? Yeah. You know anybody? No. When a husband get caught, and he say he's sorry? Huh? Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah. Forgive me. And then he say, forgive me. But you wouldn't know about that. But Richard, you wouldn't know about that. Huh?
I know about it. I know about it. I know about it far too well.
You know of it.
Hold on. Let me clear it up.
I want to keep you out of trouble.
No, Karen, I think you're right. Thanks for the clarification. I know of it.
Of it. That's what I'm saying.
Yes. I understand you. And so, I know a lot.
When you go for that one bear, remember you told me you go for a bear every now and again?
Yes.
Remember last week? Well, yes. That's when you hear of it.
Yes, exactly so. Yes. But Karen, you understand this thing.
I understand it. This is what I'm saying. I understand it well. So, and I am sure Martin Daly understood it even better than I. But the idea was to paint a simpatico. So at the end of the day, he really couldn't get around the three, and the senior and the junior. It was a hard race. And then the fact that he wanted to make a thing, he really couldn't get around it. He said, but I have to get the boy out of trouble. I have to help him out. So I'm going to take this thing. And the newspapers run with that. And the newspapers run with that. And so, are you doing your duty to the public? So when we get what we get, don't get upset, Yeah. If I don't think I really do have a lot of regard for him, but let me just say I don't wish it on him. But if ever, that is the bad thing about it, if ever a situation would arise in the future in which the veracity of the Attorney General is put into question, this
Karen,
has set a precedent for him,
it has,
very unfortunate, which in itself is a reason for him to say, you know what? The administration of justice, I only there 2-3 months, and I get myself, and listen, I put it in a witness statement. So it's like if I given evidence in court in a witness box. I'm not John Bloke. I'm not an ordinary citizen. I am the Attorney General. And when I do that, I got to understand my duty to the public and administration of justice. And that is greater than my own sense of, I don't think I did anything so wrong. But I will say that I find that it has become, the UNC has politicized it, in my view, because yes, they're coming after it in such a hard way, it almost makes me feel as though it's not as if they are upset about what he did, is that they were trying to get after, you got after our Anna, we're going to go after your Reggie. It's coming across that way, and I don't like that. And that is why I think a lot of times people may feel that what he should have stepped down, may have felt so, but because they felt that it had become so politicized, and it had very little to do with people's sense of judgment and morality and sense of right and wrong. I'm not saying it not so. I'm just saying that it started to take on that complexion that people just felt either they weren't going to get involved because they felt they were getting involved in a political thing over which Reggie Amor was the pawn, and they did not want to get themselves involved in that because they saw it as being political. And you got rid of our Anand, and now we're going to get rid of your Reggie. And by God, you nearly got rid of our Sharma. We did everything in our possible to get rid of your Chief Justice. So when things take on, and it has taken on, in my view, and that's just my view, and nobody could, I am entitled to that opinion. I saw the headline, UNC not letting it go. So I'm not making that up. I read that as a headline. So I didn't make up that headline, right? So the fact that headline was there was because there was a reason for it. And the way that they have gone after it with such a level of beyond enthusiasm, it then makes people say, everything in Trinidad is politicized. You can't just see something for what it is. What do you say?
No, I was wondering if you're looking for a word such as vitriol, if that's how you find they were going behind them, with a sense.
Yeah, it was vitriolic. That's a very good word. It was bordering. It went beyond, in my view. It came across as hypocritical. This sense of outrage, and I think partly, just a view, because I am not involved and I stay out of thing. I think partly that's why a lot of people did not participate, because they felt it was really not about what he had done, which was wrong. And I think it really was wrong. And he should have done the right thing and resign. I think he should have, to save his good name, which he has. And now he's putting it at peril. But I found that I think it came almost losing sight of that. And not only he, the PNM, and therefore pushing him, and they pushing on the other side, and everything's been seen through a lens of politics, and that probably is part of the reason why the voting did not go against him, and part of the reason why they said they have 3,000 members. I did not vote. I certainly didn't want to be part of that. But 3,000, and certainly they didn't even get 1,000 from what I gathered. And I think it's almost like if they're on a mission and, and the mission was not accomplished and they're throwing a tantrum and trying to keep alive a story. It's over, and let's see what happens. At the end of the day, it's all going to work itself out,
I guess I would fight it politically now from the parliament and so on, but let me ask you this. If Reggie, Attorney General, Mr. Amor, was the Attorney General of England, could he have survived this?
No, because also he wouldn't be a member of cabinet. He's not a member of cabinet.
No, I know the system there.
Oh, no, he couldn't have. He couldn't have. He couldn't have. Yeah. He couldn't have. No way. No way. No way. And we have a very present example of that in what is going on right now in England, under no circumstances, because I did follow the BBC news when it broke about Boris Johnson. And it was absolutely, lucidly clear, that whilst, he has his little boyish something, it is charismatic and, he plays by his own little rules and all that sort of stuff. He did handle the Brexit fairly well. Some say no, some say yay. He handled the COVID fairly well. Some say no, yay. So they're saying it's not that. It's the straw. And, when they started with the play thing, I have family in England, and they would say to me, you think that thing about having these parties during a lockdown would went down? Well, I think like Trinidad. So I know in Trinidad, if that happened, that would be water under the bridge. Nobody even taking that on. But I noticed that the newspapers were not letting it go. I mean, and I found that, I say if that was Trinidad, and it was not politicized as much as it could have been. It was really a sense of, the outrage of the British people. You telling me I cannot have a party? My family can't get together for Christmas. We can't have, my mother is living all alone in some cold part of northern part of England. And she's sitting there all by herself. And, and when people are dying, they're telling you can't go in the room to say your goodbyes. So,
and when they die, you can't even attend the funeral.
Exactly. So, and then you having a party and then lying on top of it, telling you, oh, I didn't know they're having, oh, that was a birthday party. Oh, every minute some news story. And then the last thing that got him was Mr. Pincher, whose name one cannot help but wonder if it is not an apt name for him. And sending out
his parents gave him that name.
No, that's his last name. No, it's his last name.
But still, it could be unfortunate,
Yeah, but that name, it's not his Christian, it's not his first name, It's Pincher's last name. But he sent out two, and that's what it said, 2 sacrificial lambs, 2 junior ones to lie for him. He couldn't think, and by that time he knew it was not true. And that is what they did not forgive him for lying.
And it was the British people who took action since the party,
Yeah, and you know what they said?
A loss of public confidence.
Loss of confidence and trust. And that is what the Attorney General has put himself in. Yet he's coming and saying, I'm sorry. And everybody's saying, okay, say he's sorry. Nobody's ever said he's sorry. So at least he say he's sorry. So we're making progress.
Karen, if that is not good for the British people, why is it being sold as something good for us?
Well, I'm going to tell you something that actually I have been thinking about quite recently and would want to develop. I think and this is one of the things that Lloyd Best was very good at. I didn't agree with everything he said, not at all. And I didn't belong to Tapia. I had the privilege of him teaching me twice.
I love this economic mind.
But this is the part of him I liked. And this is going to relate back to what you're asking me. He was not afraid to develop his own theories of what was right for Trinidad and Tobago. He was not afraid. He wasn't trying to reinvent the wheel, but he was trying to say we can make a different wheel to suit our realities and our history. And he wasn't afraid
just
to say it and to do it. So one of the things that troubles me is, yes, we look at the bigger countries as guideposts for us, and particularly in our development as a nation. And we have to be judicious in the way that we apply that. I would quicker say that in our economic development, we need to get away from this thing that, oh, this is what they do in England, this is what they do in Europe. No, this is the 1.3 million people made up thing. We need to create our own realities. And I could always, so to answer your question, there are some things you can't throw the baby with the bathwater. There are, from every society and from every group, there are good things to learn. But you do not slavishly apply what they did because that's how they do it there. Because what it means is you are not allowing yourself to critically think and not allowing yourself the freedom and the confidence to develop your own thing. Be guided, but create your own. And that is what Lloyd Best tried to tell us all the time. I mean, I always said he was a failure as a politician. You know, he was never meant to be a politician because a politician is one who could win votes and he never could win a seat. So if you're going to mark him on that scale, he's going to get a very low grade. But if you're going to mark him on the idea of how critical thinking and importance of that and thinking outside of that narrow constraint and developing our own answers, our own thing. We're afraid to do it. Why can't we do it? So yes, there are always good things that you have to follow, and certainly morality in public office can never get stale and can never be bended. That's not one of the things that we bend. I just on that point with Lloyd Best, and this is years ago, you know. You don't have to go tell me how many years. Don't have to answer. You didn't have to agree with me, yes, you know. Because I get enough of that from my grandson, okay?
No.
Right? He paid me a compliment today and told me I was middle-aged. I told him thank you.
But anyhow, because
I took that as a compliment.
40s, early 50s, and that's good enough.
Listen, he called me middle-aged. I did not argue with him. I was very happy with that. I said, you're on the right. Finally speaking sense. But all joking aside, I remembered when I did international relations, and Lloyd Best was one of our teachers. He taught me twice. But I could remember him talking about, can you imagine in this country, we have tamarind trees left, right, and center. And you go into the supermarket and they are importing tamarind like sweets to eat. Can you imagine that this country has all this fruit that we can take and about what we are doing instead of taking our own resources and developing it? And that must have been, oh my God, about 20 years ago. And we doing that, we come in and slavishly importing the things that we could make. I never forgot him for saying that. Never forgot him for saying that. Because what it says is that is two things. There's a group of people in this country that are controlling this economy, and all they want to do is to use up my foreign exchange and don't work hard. And if
bring
they do
I don't monitor it, bring it, import things, put
and sell it.
And sell it.
And use it up. Use it up.
They own this country.
They own it.
They own the country. Yeah, they own the country by being able to just engage in trade.
And
it
wait,
doesn't
and
take
not only
intellectualism, no academics involved per se.
But wait,
no.
What is worse now? Because they're going to tell you this now, because I see they must be getting the message that people criticizing them, and it's becoming too obvious that what the foreign exchange reserves, what it is being used for. I mean, how could the Minister of Trade and Industry justify bringing in all of these foreign? Let us have our own subway. What is wrong with Royal Castle? What is wrong with it? You're going to dead not to eat KFC? Huh? What is wrong with but you know what they do?
Different things. The poor Richards up there, because we spoke out there. The poor Richards up in the airport now. Yes.
But hiding behind.
Down in the back.
Down in the back.
Down in the back.
Yeah. And your prime minister want to tell me stupidness. Look. I don't even want to hear it. Let me just tell you.
Tell him not so based on those policies.
The gig is over.
Yes, the gig
and you know what they're doing now?
Like him, but the gig is not a good one.
The gig is, and you know what they're doing now?
Yeah.
Let me tell you what they're doing now. Because they have gotten so much criticism. When you go now, I'm not bad talking any supermarket, but my golly gosh, I go into some of every supermarket, the bigger ones, and I go into the deep freeze section. I could see those things must be there a year, 2 years. You don't even know what the name of the darn thing is. It's ice frozen, froze over ice. Things that we don't need to eat. We never ate. We don't need to eat. We don't need to eat it. You're selling an apple for $19.50. $90.50. Hold on. Yeah? No, you can't. No, you cannot. What you want to say? You want to get me in trouble?
No.
And somebody want to become your host?
You want to become my prime? You want to become prime minister?
Oh, but that's a good thing, Karen.
Yeah, you want to come and challenge.
Prime Minister has encouraged more people than ever before to want to be prime minister.
Yeah, you know what you want to come and say?
Feel like you do a better job.
You know what you coming to say at 9 years of age?
What's that?
Let me talk now. Let me say something. I said, "Say now, you crazy?" Well, you heard me. He said, "Isn't it ironic, Grand, that you said we're not supposed to speed the prime minister, but that's what you're doing?"
Oh, he's a bright guy. I
mean, yeah, right. Yeah, excuse me, apple, mango don't fall far from the tree.
Well, there you go. There you go.
Okay, so let me put you in your place with your 2 children going to the prestige schools from which you went. So I'm giving you back a little bit. But anyhow, you see, I lost my very good train of thought. This is what I think. This is what I am saying. And I'm saying it on this show because I noticed I noticed things being said that I know we have said on this show, and all of a sudden, I'm glad they don't have to give any credit to any of us here. Very good, as long as they think it's worthy of consideration in their planning. But what they're doing now, they're getting enough licks over only bringing in, and then using up my foreign exchange. When I go to the bank, they tell me I can't get $100, I can't get $200 because they keep it all out for them. And not to say they're bringing anything to build the country, Not to say they're bringing anything to give these little young people a chance in life and build it up. No, it's just to make themselves richer and richer and richer and richer, right? But what they're doing now, because of the amount of thing, and I want the government to hear what I'm saying. I am not saying that they must participate in a way that is going to benefit them and the country. You can't listen. Countries like Uganda and Kenya, they got in trouble over that same mindset. You can't be seen or cannot be viewed as not making a contribution to the productive capacity of the country to earn it. We want you to help to earn foreign exchange. Sri Lanka is in the mess it is now. It has no foreign exchange. Lebanon is in the mess it is now. It has no foreign exchange. Okay? So what I don't want the prime minister to do is to give them 10 acres of land for them to grow on a scale that a little man cannot do. 10 acres of land to grow sweet potatoes, to make sweet potato chips, to put anything. How is that helping? Because you're going to pay cheap labor, the only person benefiting. Okay, so you're now going to tell me, well, we're not importing, we're producing, and we're using it. That is not the problem, Mr. Prime Minister. I don't know how else to say it. And I know you understand. I know you know I am not one of the, you may think of me that way, but I am not one of, angels to whatever you call us. Can't call the young people, whatever, what do you call them? Anyway, see? That's to tell you how I can't even want to remember how he insulted them. right? But anyhow, it's not me you're talking to. It's not me you're talking to. And I am not fighting this fight for me. You know that. I am not fighting this fight for me. You know enough that I am not fighting this fight for me. What I'm fighting this fight for is the 80% of this country that you have no regard for. And you are pretending that you don't know what to do. What to do? Listen, you don't have to follow the playbook of Europe. They are different. They're hundreds of years of civilization. You don't have to follow the playbook of America. It's hundreds of civilizations of basically a homogeneous population, meaning a white population. You don't have to do that. You know what you have to do? You have to look at your 80% and say, listen, you need to get a piece of this country that belongs to you. You see that oil and natural gas that paying the revenues to do everything? You have an ownership in it. You don't realize it, but you do. And you see us, we don't own any of it. You put us there to manage it for your benefit. So you don't have to be a rocket scientist, and you don't have to follow anybody playbook. Maybe tap your playbook and do this. You see that fish fry nonsense? I was so proud. I said, oh, but finally, the fish fry concept. But you don't do one. You do about 20 IDP. Somebody will give you that money to do that. I am sure. If you sell it well. Set up 20 of them all over the country. Landscape it well. Put a beautiful tent. You know how to do first class because you just came from California and you're going all over the world. You know what is first class. You did Stallmeyer Castle. You did President's House, Red House. I clap you. I applaud you for the excellent job you did. Excellent job you did. So I know you know how to do it the right way. And don't treat these people as though because they're poor, because they don't know better, because they didn't know that you could treat them like that, because that's what you're doing. So my suggestion is this. We have to create our economy. We have to create our reality. And that means you have got to make space and create a real space. Don't bad talk them and bring them down and call them names and get Watkins to do a report that nobody ever see. No, we don't want that. Or the Paria thing. Poor QC, Dennis Morrison run home. When he see what involved there, I have a feeling he say, you see this non-delegable duty that coming up there, because that's what they're going to argue, non-delegable duty. And which is a whole thing. He say he non-delegable duty, which probably would succeed. He say keep him out of that. You see all this thing with his AG, with Cummins, with everything. What to do is look, 20%, you have enough. Or you could sit down and have a party and reinvest in each other, which I do. And you could take care of yourself. But you see me, I'm the Prime Minister. And I have to make, I cannot have all of these young men being your cheap labor, cheap labor, can't even mind itself with the salary you're giving them. I don't want to say what they ended up being, but it's close to that, right? What you want to do, you use your brain, you have the ability. Stand down with the Minister of Agriculture, the, not the ministry, the Faculty of Agriculture, Community Development, come in something, and create a blueprint, and take that blueprint, sell it all over. You have to sell it and set up about 20 of them across the world. So Saturdays and Sundays, families go like what they do in St. Lucia. St. Lucia is known for their fish fries on a Friday and a Saturday, where people go and buy lobster, they sit down, they eat, they walk around. But do it in an elegant way. Don't do it in a rough way. Because if you do it in a rough way, the middle class people are going to go. And the middle class people are the ones with the money. And you're going to keep them away. So do it in a way that you know that you will get everyone wanting to be there. Yes, it will be attractive to everyone. And let these young men then go up in Paramin, making pastel, people eating pastel whole thing, people eating thing, and then you set up a little thing, but do it elegant, do it thing, and then you advertise that and you make answer. Not everybody will succeed with, but what you are doing is you are rewriting the playbook. Stop giving them subsidies so that these people can get cheap labor and continue to take the money and spin it around among themselves, and do not and now that I think they've been shamed enough, want to give them land to grow. If you do that, you're creating the same monopoly. You're creating the same monopoly.
The money is going the same place. The money is going the same place.
Yes, so it's not just a question of foreign exchange. We are talking about giving everybody a chance.
It has to do with equal distribution of the wealth of the country. That's
but
what
it may be not equal. I wouldn't go so equal because
when we say
equal, if you say equal, they would say you're a communist, and I'm not a communist.
Cents of a dollar. Equal mean it's relative, Karen. You know,
opportunities.
A fair share of the pie. That is
an
not
opportunity to earn a fair share.
To allow other people to become active participants in the economics of the country. That's what you want.
Exactly. And listen, you're not going to do. Stop making them feel worse and worse. Stop making them the targets for everything that is wrong in the country. Huh? And I can give you some
deliberately, Karen. And when that is being done, we're talking about.
I hope your listeners hear enough to know.
Hold on. Whenever that is done, where people are criticized, and you allow the small man to feel like the small man is the problem, and then it may be expressed in an arrogant or a rough way. Let me tell you why that is done. That is not done because the person, how should I say, built up internally that what comes out is a reflection of what is on the inside. It's not that. Hear what it's more of. That's why I stopped talking about how we talk to people and that he want to buff people, because there's a softer issue for him to deal with, you know. The prime minister buff this one or the prior, that becomes the issue. I don't care about that. He can buff whoever he wants. Is whether he's doing the job he was elected to do as prime minister. You can go and talk to whomever, however you want, that's your business. But when you hear the media carrying this one get buff or that one get buff, they soften the issue. But the real problems continue to be prolonged. They continue to fester. And they only grow in numbers. And it gets worse. So we have to hold him to the job that he was given. I want to ask you, when he buffing people and conducting himself like that, is he acting effectively as a prime minister? I want to submit to you the answer to that is no. Because you come back, you buff people, but you can't say, apart from the buff, how you're moving people forward.
Absolutely. Because and you notice something? I could give him some solutions that are easy to implement. Yes, as I have said, and I had a discussion with someone else, he keep on talking about the symptoms of the problem. It's like if you came to work, as we already said, you come to work with fever. I don't know why you get fever. I go send you by the doctor to find out why you got fever. And he could come with all kinds. I hope it's just a natural little fever you're going through, right? But fever could be a symptom of septicemia. It could be a symptom of all kinds of very serious things, right? And therefore, if the doctor tell you, take 2 Panadol and go home, and did not investigate what caused it, you could die at home.
Because he
so
didn't
what I am saying, so what I am saying is, he deliberately talks about this because he knows there are a lot of people who will say, yes, look at how they behave. Oh God,
a lot of people would relate to that.
Yeah, and look at them behaving like
it changes the issue. So the problem is you can't get Forex. But you come and talk about people wasting money and how they just do this and they don't help. Yeah, but he's not addressing the issue of the shortage of Forex. So what he does there cleverly, he changes the issue.
Not cleverly anymore.
Certainly not for you and me. But the media houses that they can run with it, they embrace it, and he feels he's clever when he does that. People have to hold him to the standard to the standard of the office, which is where we put him. And what we expect from you in that office is to be able to deliver for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. I mean, look at what he tried today, for example. You come to talk, you did the people no favor, you know. But you want it to be sold as a favor. When you talk about the amount of money costing the government, even with the natural gas and the cooking gas. But here this now. They're not going to touch the price of cooking gas. You understand? Why isn't it? You want people to feel you're doing them a favor that you did not do that.
And it's insulting, you know. I don't really understand.
Why raise it? Why raise it if you're not going to deal with it? I want to say to the Prime Minister today, you see that cooking gas matter? This is the second time you raise it. Don't do me any favor. Remove the subsidy from it. Let me pay the correct price. Because if that is a favor you want to make me believe you're giving me, I want to tell it today, you have done me no favors. Move it.
That's right.
I'll pay the $80. I want to say to people, tell him, move the subsidy from it too. Because election will come in this country again. You know?
But wait, no. Let me just say with regard to the Prime Minister, when he speaks about, I want to come back to the point about these children turning into whatever, I can't remember what he said they turn into. I have some simple, easy, implementable measures that the Prime Minister can put into place as he fights the cause, which we know what is the cause. And he knows that we know what the cause is. One, give the DPP a full complement of lawyers, because the DPP is the only arm in the state, in the country, that can prosecute you. I know they can get private prosecutions, but you have to get permission, and that is extraordinary. So the person to prosecute matters in this country from the magistrate court, sometimes they use policemen, depending on the nature of the matter, certainly at the High Court, Court of Appeal, and so on. The DPP's office is responsible. So give him the ammunition, the tools. That's an easy one. Take away and you know how you could have that? You see all those private companies that you have given contracts to transport or to deal with the issues of national security issues that they're involved in and their private companies, take it away from them and give it to state-owned companies. Take it away from them. They should not be involved in anything to deal with our national security. You are making us very, very vulnerable when you do that. So take away any contract. Another thing you do, you see all the cars that seem to mash up fast, and we have to order a whole set of new cars, and we always spending money on cars, and somebody making money off of the cars. Take some of that money, instead of and leaving them to rust and mash up, and leaving them to rust and mash up. I said employ a full complement of lawyers in UP. And when you do that, this is what to do. If you're serious, take a group of them and put them in a unit called white collar crime, money laundering. Send them for 1 year training or bring down somebody to train them. And their responsibility is only to deal with the matters of money laundering and white collar crime that are reported to them, either from the FIU, through SARS, through SORT, or through the banks, or through the central bank. And that's their job, only to deal and develop a specialty in that area. That's an easy fix. That's an easy fix. And another easy fix that you could do to deal with the crime in this country. That's just one thing, right? And the other thing, you see the Southwest Peninsula, through which apparently a lot of the contraband products are coming. You should make sure that both above the sky and in the sea, that waters are properly maneuvered, supervised, and monitored. I read it now, they have a whole set of them they're fixing. So the fact that you have to be fixing it means you left it there and weren't using it. And the fact you weren't using it means you were not monitoring it. And why did you leave it to reach that point when your government, of which I was a part, recognized through Martin Joseph, when he was Minister of National Security, that the major threat came from that Southwest Peninsula. So take a lot of your energies and put it in the Southwest Peninsula. One, give the DPP a full complement of staff and a special unit to deal with money laundering and white-collar crime. The DNA, every person who has a committed an indictable offense, or what they call an offense, can go either way, either summary or indictable. Every single one of them, their fingerprints should be taken, because that is how it's solving crime in America with the national DNA centers. So set up the DNA center properly, and every single one that comes in there, you take their DNA, not fingerprint, their DNA, and you store their DNA so you have it there when you're trying to solve problems. Ballistics. You see the ballistics center? Set up a proper ballistics center, because I don't know much about ballistics, but I understand after you shoot any shell, you could actually tell the gun from which that bullet was shot, right? So a ballistic center properly operational, a DNA center in which every person convicted or awaiting trial for an indictable or an offense that goes either way, that you take the DNA and it is stored in a national DNA center. Give the DPP a full complement of staff and a special unit to deal with money laundering, right? And when it comes to the Southwest Peninsula, fix all those boats and all those radar and things that have been lying down, rusting. Well, according to you said they're not working. So if they're not working, they wouldn't be used. And fix them. And then, in order to show you that you are the Prime Minister of this country, instead of focusing on subsidies and trying to fool people with you get them this, you get them that, and then you want to say we have a Guinea dependency syndrome. Take
and
those
in a
things.
technical sense, it's threatening people there. It could be argued, threaten people, with that, with the natural.
Yeah, because and when you're developing it and then turn it around and come and tell you have a dependency syndrome. But instead of having dependency syndrome, start a micro and a small enterprise system to get these people off. And we don't want another plan. We have 1,000 plans collecting dust. And using one blueprint and send it all over and do it well. Don't do it like how you do Maracas, which is a mess. Right? Do it like you see how you did the President's House and Stallmeyer Castle and Prime Minister's office, you see, and the bread house, you see how you did it that well? That's how to do it, because you know how to do it well. And you know that many people know that you know how to do it well. And if you do it that way, you will give these people a sense of pride. They will become entrepreneurs. They will be able, and guess what? You might get them not willing to be involved in informal trade. They might say, no, man, I don't want to be in that anymore. I'm making good money this way and I'm feeling good about myself. That's what to do. But those are some simple things that I am sure are doable.
Karen, it also had Patrick Manning, the great late guy, bought 4 Augusta Westland choppers. Remember that?
Yeah.
4. Right.
And non-working.
To protect, so under the sun or under the moon to the sea, to help to make sure our borders are protected. You pack them up, and up to this day, you can't get the country a good explanation for doing that. What I've heard now is that they start one of the choppers in gravel and a stone went in the engine and mash up one. You understand? You understand what I'm saying? And that's what we...
They're not serious. But you know what? They take us.
Oh, yeah. I heard that they started one. Huh?
They take us for fools.
Yes, and for much too long. And on that point, let me go back to Amor. If, just to turn it around.
No, Amor means love.
Okay, all right. But I only use that as a name for today. We have a very nice meaning. And I want to thank him for them giving him a name with love. Full respect to Mr. Amor. However, on the Amor matter, if our party, the PNM, was in opposition, right, and some other government was in, and the Attorney General was caught up in the same situation, the scenario being precisely what it is today, what would have been our position in the opposition? What would have been Dr. Rowley's position as opposition leader?
Absolutely. This is why, this is why I wonder, it's not just a fault of our government and of Trinidad and Tobago. I think Miyamoti really just set an excellent exception to the general rule. And I also think Jamaica, because of the circumstances in which they have found themselves, that they really had to call out to the IMF to help them. And so everybody came together. You know that, a few years back. Everybody, the opposition, the then opposition, the government, the private sector, the unions, everybody came together and were willing to find a solution. But I think in Trinidad, we do not have, in my view, a sufficient sense of responsibility to each other. It's very much like a silo. It's almost as though we see things very much in, and I don't think people do it out of malice or ill will or anything like that. I genuinely don't think so. But somehow they can't see beyond their own interests and the interests of their children and of the interests of their community. And so because their interest is relegated to the interests of that small sector, they don't understand that taking that approach means that the country as a whole does not benefit. And what you should really want is that for all of us to benefit. So that, for example, when they showed you all of those people fighting in the street, the students, and all the burden of tires and so on, it is. I'm not saying it is right, but one can. I don't even want to use the word understand, because that is too strong a word. One can appreciate that people will see that and say, "Oh my God, look at how they behave," and you know what I mean by they. So they do not get a sense of empathy from people. And they're just seen as hooligans. I've seen people read, I have read messages using words, look at them behaving like savages and the hooligans, and all these undertones which are racist in nature. And that is something that the Prime Minister has to take responsibility for, in a sense, for allowing. He distances himself from it. Well, don't be the Prime Minister, that's all. You know what I mean? If you don't want to deal with them, don't be the Prime Minister. That's a simple setting. But you want to be the Prime Minister. You can't be the Prime Minister of 10% and 30% of middle-class people. But the rest of them who are branded, you feel no responsibility to pull them out of where they are. You cannot search
the population you're talking about. But the numbers you use, that 60% of the population is saying that has been ignored, right? How that could be right? A Prime Minister has to look out for every single person in this country, every single one. And it's a horrible situation we are faced with in this country, and people must speak out.
Oh God, sorry, you know what I deal with there? You know what I deal with there?
You know what I deal with there? What's that? No.
You know what I deal with there? Extra lessons that I throw a book behind him.
That's good. And if the person is demanding your presence to administer that lessons to him or her,
it's a whole set of children, and they're and then look at me. What? God have mercy. Sorry, I got distracted with it.
No, they're admiring your work on the radio as well, and they want you to come and give to them some of what they're hearing you deliver here, which is impressive and straightforward dealings with the country. And as
absolutely,
the Prime Minister's office, as I've always been saying, it's a tool and a platform, and it must be used as such to help people. It's not a place to go and sit down on a throne and people come to you last, and then you come and pretend you're talking briefly on a matter, and you close your door and go on. It's not that.
Yeah.
You use that office. You know, he started good, you know. He used to say he's the #1 salesman, Prime Minister. I like
But
that.
he's a good salesman, you know, actually.
That he had the energy level, and he saw the role that he's supposed to play as Prime Minister, to pursue what is good for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Suddenly that gone. He's no longer the #1 salesman. A salesman supposed to sell you. That's what they normally try to do, tell you what's good and make you buy it. What is he selling to the population now? By telling them, for example,
what he's selling to the population, and I think it has worked to some extent, which is why we have to do what we're doing, right? Honest thing. I think it's sold to the population that the reason why there's so much those videos that we saw with the fighting and the, you know, the conduct and all of that you see on these videos, social, even when people feel, which is quite telling, that even when I just think that even when they know that the killings of the men, I'm not saying not the media, because I don't think the media does that, but I think when you go on social media, other outlets, that the killings of those young men, which seem more than questionable, based on the two different groups, one in Independence Square, I think, and one in another place within the last week, right? That it appeared more than suspicious, and the story that was given by the police did not line up with what was actually on the social media thing. And I think to some extent, and the other one too, with the Andrea Barrett, with the two young men that fell off the chair and died. I really feel to some extent, and I may be wrong, that in people's minds, that they say, well, they're just blight on the society. They are just causing crime in the society. So there's not that level of empathy. But what they don't understand is that's the beginning of the end. You see, once that's a trickle, that's how it starts. When you say it started, for example, I mean, I know I'm making a horrible analogy, but it's the only one that comes to mind. So please forgive me, all your listeners, but it's only to make the point, that's the only one that comes to mind. When Hitler started his policy, which eventually trickled down eventually to the Jews, he didn't start there, you know. He started using a policy, this thing of eugenics, which was developed in the United States by the person who, family planning. The person who started family planning in the United States was an American. It is she that started it, and Germany adopted eugenics. And the eugenics principle was, well, why have children who are Down syndrome, people who are mentally ill, people who have all kinds of disabilities, especially in the 30s, in the early days of medicine too, fairly early days, that the state has to fund it. You, the taxpayer, has to pay for them. Are they not a sort of, are they not causing the country?
A burden on society?
Yeah, they're burden on the society. And they had pictures all over the country showing people in wheelchairs, people with Down syndrome, people that were unattractive, people that were ill. And of course, these were being housed in taxpayer homes. And so the empathy started with that, and people started saying, you know, it's true. Why must we? I mean, their lives are probably very horrible anyhow. So what I am trying to say, in a very strange way, I don't want anybody writing me and thinking, I don't know what they would think, but what I'm trying to say is this, that in a way, one of the reasons why the public outrage has not occurred, in my view, is because it's the wrong persons, inverted commas, that have died. I suspect it will another group of people that would not be the response. And what I say, and this is my last point, and this is what I really want to see. That is where the government has failed them, because for people to still think of them in 2022 like that means you have failed to uplift them. Yeah. You have failed to create a space for them. You have failed to help them to become businessmen in their own right. Instead, what you have done is put all your energies in making those at the top become even wealthier. And therefore, you have, in a way, created a disdain and a contempt for these young people to the point that they don't like themselves, and people do not have this empathy for them that they should. And I think that is part of the problem. And I think the Prime Minister has to take some responsibility for that.
I think he has to take a substantial amount of the responsibility for also succeeding to assist them to remove their self-esteem from them, to having them being reconditioned to accept anything that isn't good as something that is good for them. That's what he has done. He has spoken to them and he has driven them into a corner mentally where now they feel once you're at the bottom of the ladder, any number could play. Crime, demeaning jobs, anything. In other words, they're no longer...
That's what you deserve.
That's what you deserve.
That's what you deserve. That's
They're
what you deserve.
Trying to dream to come out of that situation.
No, you can't dream. No.
They have succeeded in making them feel where they are is the best that they could get from life.
That is what he has done.
And Tobago dream. And where you are, if you're renting, you can't pay it, the landlord could throw you out. If you make noise, look out for police to come and beat you. You understand what I'm saying? That is what he has done. He has done nothing to help free these people up in a way to make them feel, listen, with some more effort, with a little bit more this and that, I can actually become this one or that one. Nothing.
And it's not hard. Yeah, I don't think it is hard to do. It's not hard. That the fish fry thing that they have, which is the oysters, but what they did thing, which I thought looked really good, sure good start, but it's not even open. You should at the same time have had about 15 or 16 of those things and maintain them and have a big opening and talk about this is a new era and you can take your family like what they do in St. Lucia. You could have done a good marketing job, but to do that in your constituency, it's not even open. Big opening with no opening because they had a picture of the man with a big piece of wood, which is where they cut up the fish, and they're not doing any work. But they have to say, "Thank God for Jesus, thank God for Jesus, thank God for Jesus." And this is what the Prime Minister cannot take. He cannot take responsibility for every child. He cannot. But what he can take responsibility for is that he knows the vulnerabilities of these children. He knows they're not coming from homes with mommy and daddy and going to private school and private lessons and doing ballet after class and going swimming after class and have a helper or somebody going to pick up. He knows that the children are well taken care of. And even if something going on wrong in their home, you ain't going to find out and no media going to report it, right? He knows that. So you have to concentrate now on what you can do to build up a whole business community and not in a Vikey jump on, go on top of, where's the place they have scythe at Christmas? At Christmas, where everybody's got Christmas, the Monday before Christmas. Yeah, you can't. They say, hold a minute.
Daddy Map?
What happened?
Yeah, I was saying Paramin.
Paramin, yes. Thank you. I thought you were getting me in. I thought you were getting Richard and I in trouble. Yeah, so I was saying, yeah, you can't jump up on Paramin and then jump in a steel band and say, what kind of, that's what you score planning? I fire you tomorrow morning. Because you absolutely do not understand what your responsibilities are and how you roll out a plan. Nobody knows what the plan is. Nobody
There's no
knows.
plan, Karen. There's no plan.
And you know what?
There is no plan. If
And
they
guess
have a
what? Guess
plan, show
what?
us the plan and show us how far they
Guess
have
what?
reached in it. What they
Guess
achieved,
what?
yeah.
And guess what? They don't care. Because guess what? The people who have the bands are you know who. And they making money card off of the band. And then they could say, well, other people make money too because we hire the trucks. Well, the trucks. And then we hire buy the cater to have catering. So yes, they make a little dollar there. But the people who really make the money out of any of these things, why? There's nothing then. There's no avenue that this government has created, in my respectful opinion, in a very meaningful way to create an entrepreneurial opportunities in a very strategic, implementable way. Because everything they talk about up to the fish and fry thing, they are implemented. The fish and fry is not implemented.
No, this is
It's not implemented.
You cannot promise people. Put what songs like the good news to grab headlines next day. You know? Just like we are not closing down petrol train on a platform. And then what happens after? Because it's less people will be paying attention to what happens after. But you had the platform and thereby the people's attention in the country. So you use the opportunity to tell something that is remotely close to the truth. But what was rolled out days after was very different. Let me tell you something. I would want to also add, Karen, that the role of a prime minister is to inspire especially the poor people and give them hope.
Absolutely.
Tell me what this prime minister has done to inspire anybody from the poor class. Just give me one. Nothing.
Absolutely.
Nothing.
We should have steel band. We should have steel band factories.
Because I'm the best man to lead you. If you want to lead people, at least they should at least be inspired. You have not inspired them. You have not made their lives better. But when it's election, you want to go back to them to say, put me to lead you.
But why they take it, I don't understand. They should have steel band factories all over Trinidad. We should have contracts. People should be going out there selling the steel band, taking videos of steel band, selling the steel bands to schools, universities, and have all these young men owning the steel band thing or having shares. Let the government own part shares, but let them own shares. And then having lessons, teaching steel band by video. So you pay X amount of money. That's how those Kardashian and all of them who what they call them? They call them the influencers. That's how you get your influencers. We have a Miss Universe, a Miss World, a Miss World. We have Olympians. We have people that have made it internationally. You can use those people as the front people to promote our products internationally. We have Marshall, we have Kez, we have so much talent in this darn country that we can use them to promote all of this. But you know what? In my mind, if I have to judge this government in these last 7 years, I will just say, you know what they won't put in place? The National Statistical Institute. They're afraid to put it in place because the truth will come out. Who is employed? What is the definition of employment? Who is underemployed? What is the poverty rate? What qualifies as poverty? Then we will start to see the real picture in this country. Up to now, it won't do it.
We got a piece of the picture the other day in relation to the poverty rate in the country, the true picture, when that royal cruise came and they were trying to hire some people. When you saw the thousands of people who went out to do those types of jobs, it tells you, Karen, and a lot of them can't even swim.
That's true.
Those people saw through the COVID, Karen, how they would take those ships away and telling people, look, come here. You saw people committing suicides on those ships.
That's true.
They come to hire people, and thousands of people fighting and want to climb over each other to go and work there. What that tells you about their state of financial resources, their state of well-being at this time. It tells you that they are living lives of substantial and huge degrees of impoverishment. It's only when you are so impoverished that you would want to consider going for a job that you should be running from and willing to fight people to get a job. One that you should tell people thanks, but no thanks. You fighting to get that.
Okay, but I'll tell you something, Richard. I am strong on this, I am strong on this. Maybe because of being a lawyer and also being a lecturer and also writing, you know, and I say that to say that I can always remember my students will say to me, if I tell them something, they might come and tell me where their uncle, who might be a QC from town in Port of Spain. When my uncle says so and so, I said, well, the day your uncle becomes a source of the law, I will quote him. But when your uncle tells you where he got his thing, which has to be a case, or it has to be case or some legislation, that is not an authority of the law. So what I am really saying to you, those things are anecdotal and they really bring forth the seriousness of the issue in Trinidad. But what we need is to get more data from the CSO, up-to-date data from the CSO and the central bank, right? And the, I don't know if the IMF gets involved. I know they publish information, but the CSO and the central bank.
Why we didn't get those things? Because it will not put the government in a favorable
light. But you can't, right. Yes, so that is what I'm telling you. People have to, you see, sometimes people will go and focus on how many people were looking for a job. I think they don't mind you looking at that because you're distracted. Because somebody will tell you, well, oh, what you saying? These are young people. They wanted a chance to see the world. They could tell you 101 things, and some of it will be true.
Karen and me and ministers came out and said that before any of the people who are looking for the job
but Richard,
to say anything. You know what they're doing? They were putting words in people's mouth to say.
But Richard,
and you know some people said it after. Yeah.
Richard, what I'm trying to say though is that there are people who will believe that that's true. They say, you know, it's true. I never see the world. Imagine thing. It's so exciting. Watching, you know. Yeah, because they have shows on television called one of those television stations talking about these people who go on yachties and so on. So what I'm trying to tell you, the only way you use those anecdotal things, but you must back it up with statistics, with data. When you hit them with data, and you ask them to explain the data, you will say X, Y, and Z, this is what the data is showing. So this is the underemployment in this country. This is the poverty level in this country. This is the, and do you know the central bank said that the why the inflation rate is still low, of course, and we discussed that, the repo rate and all of that, unlike in America, is because they say zero consumer confidence. A good indicator. Now, if you want to tell me a data now, I will say a good indication is who borrowing from the bank, who is borrowing from the bank, and the consumer who was the one to invest and put the money back into the system and roll it around and create equilibrium and all of that wonderful stuff. It ain't happening because people are afraid to spend. Why? Because they're waiting for the next shoe to drop, because they don't have confidence that the economy is in a stable, sustainable state. And that is a very good indication, together with the crowds waiting to go on the ships, as to the state of our economy. But we need the data. You cannot manage what you do not
But because the data has not been forthcoming,
but we have to insist.
We insist. And although we anticipate we ain't getting it anytime soon, what you have to use is what you have. You have to use the teeth you have, Karen. And what we have now is what we saw when those people were lining up
to
get the job. True. That's what we have to use now. In the absence of the real data, that is very difficult to dispute. Data is a very telling thing. So you can say what you want, you can speculate. The data will tell you this is where the speculating comes to an end. This is real. Work with that.
Richard,
yeah, the numbers. We get that.
Richard, I want to tell you, ask you something. You know, I get so caught up with the show, I forgot to ask you, where's our guest?
Oh, it's the day he was to come on. It's
I
true.
get, wait now. I get so caught up.
I'm not even in Trinidad, you know.
You're not in Trinidad?
No, I am in Glasgow, you know.
What? What is this?
It's very cold.
You're not away, you're in foreign. In foreign.
So that's what we have slipped me, Karen, because whole day I'm in different meetings all about. Yeah, so
it's in Europe. No, you're not in Europe, huh? Remember Brexit? You're not in Europe.
No, I'm going to France in the next few days, and a few days after
that,
I'm
sorry. My apologies.
London, I have to do some shopping in
my apologies.
We don't need the old talk from the government. We don't need handouts from them to get by. You understand? And that's why we can call it as it is. And
that's
people
correct.
must do the same. They must do the same. And I'll tell them this won't be an easy ride this time, because what they have served the people of Trinidad and Tobago is absolute nonsense. And it has pushed people back 20, 30 years.
Yeah, and a lot of people seeing through them, A lot of people seeing through them. The same people they're fooling, I think they had enough. Yeah, so the next show.
Come on, but to the Ghanaian saw it,
Yeah, but the next show. Ruben, so Richard, if it was you who brought the heat wave in London.
Ruben is a very unique analyst,
Richard, I am going now, but I want to tell you.
Yeah.
Next time, make sure you bring your guests.
No, I'll call him tonight.
Right. From where he went you are. And I want to say
I know it's about 2 o'clock in the morning here. Let me check.
It's 5 hours. We are
Hold on. So it's 6 o'clock in Trinidad.
5 hours ahead.
It's 11 o'clock. It's 11 o'clock. I'll call him tonight.
It's too late. You wouldn't call him at this hour.
No. When they had problems, Karen, they called me too. There were times No, I brought them on to 1 or 2 before, and they called me 1:30 in the morning, all kind of thing, and I took the call. So, in law, there's a principle of law known as a course of dealing, Karen. If they could call me late.
That look like something you make up.
No, it's a contract law.
It's called, no, I will tell you what it's called, reciprocity.
Oh. Karen, it's 6 o'clock. You gotta wait till next week to see this beautiful face and the wonderful solid comments. You have made some monumental contributions to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. You're not doing it for you. I like that. You are doing it for the 80%. And I like that.
That's your right. Thank you very much. All right. Enjoy Brexit, Europe. Say hi to Boris for me.
No, they don't like him here in Scotland at all.
I said, say. No, it's all right. Where you are now.
If I only say something good about Boris, all they wouldn't see me back in Trinidad,
No, they don't have to know. Just go and see Boris.
Up here, not like the people in Trinidad, You only go tell us, hey, Boris, I love him.
Go and say hello to Rishi, because Rishi look like he's going to be the next Prime Minister.
That might be a better thing to do.
Yes. All right, I'll go on.
They're already looking to the future. They don't want to hear about Boris.
Thank you so much, Karen.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
Karen is home. Get home safely, Daddy Mac.
I will. I will.
Bye-bye.
Analyze that heat wave thing that he spoke of. It has gotten past me. I still have to look into it. Can't one drop an answer now, Ruben? Give us some more time.
I'm gone.
All right, take it easy.
Okay, thank you so very much, people. Straight ahead news.
Power 102 Digital. Yeah. We sound like home. Power 102 Digital. Stream